Welcome to the Deal Champs podcast. I'm your co-host, Stratton Brown, Strat Daddy. We have the king of Las Vegas here today, Mr. Casey Ryan. I've heard nothing but good things. I met him in Mastermind a couple of years ago. He does a lot of work with actually my uncle. We have the master of hair, Mr. Jason Pritchard. The hair's out today. He's back in action.
Hair's out today.
Hair's
out,
slicked
man.
back. We have
hold back
the Captain America, Dean Rogers. And then obviously the king of Las Vegas, Mr. Casey Ryan. Real quick about myself. I got started in real estate like 5 or 6 years ago. We now own a 7-figure real estate company. We've scaled 2 different companies to 7 figures using virtual assistants, and we primarily buy storage and creative finance deals. We do have the king master of hair, Mr. Jason Pritchard. Give yourself a quick intro.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your other co-host, Jason Pritchard. Quick backstory on me. I worked in corporate America for 15 years. Was very unhappy in my life and my job. We burned all the boats in 2014 and have not looked back since. In that time, the last 10 years, we flipped close to 400 houses. We own a rental portfolio of just over 100 units, mainly here in Central California. And like I always say, my goal and our goal with this show is to try to transfer as many of the skills and learning lessons that we've experienced over the last 10 years to all you guys, so you can navigate the roadblocks and not fall into some of the same pitfalls that we've had. So I've heard nothing but good things about Casey. I know he's got a pretty substantial operation going down in Vegas. So I'm curious to hear what's going on in one of the really hot markets right now in the US, man. So excited for this one.
And then
a lot of growth there right
now.
Yeah.
What's up, guys? You're the co-host here, Dean Rogers. My story is I transitioned from the NFL to then corporate to then real estate. Been investing for a decade now in Central California.
Substantial.
Done 600 plus deals now, rental portfolio of almost 10 million, coaching students how to get started in real estate. You guys can always connect with me at deanrogers.com.
And then the king of Las Vegas, Mr. Casey Ryan. Genuine dude. I've only met you a couple times, but again, Marcus says amazing things about you. Tell us what about yourself, bro. Thank you so much for coming on.
Sure. Yeah. I've been out in Vegas, born and raised in Vegas. I've been doing this for I did my first deal in 2013 while I was still going through college. But that was just a few, summer intern type stuff that I was doing with my brother-in-law. And then 2015, same thing. I graduated engineering and was taking job interviews and burned the boats and jumped on board and went full-time in real estate instead. Didn't take any of the engineering jobs that I had and never looked back since. It was the best decision. I actually wish I would have quit college sooner to jump in earlier, but everything happens for a reason. So, but yeah, I'm out in Vegas. We wholesale, we fix and flip. We do sub twos as well, some novations, not a ton, but and then I've got a rental portfolio. I had about 10 here, and then total doors in Oklahoma, I've got about 250, and that's a blend of single family and then 2 apartment complexes, and then I have a storage facility out there too.
Hey,
Nice.
Did you always know you wanted to be in real estate? Because you said you started in college. I mean, I get jealous of people that I know like got started when they were in high school, got started when they were in college. I'm like, dang, I would have had that vision then. I was just focused on football, but like real estate that early, oh man, that would have been awesome.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get into it earlier than most. I think I was like 22 or 23-ish. But my brother-in-law was doing it out here on a getting started scale. He was a retail agent, and then he was flipping a few properties, and then started shifting mostly to that. I think he was doing about 20 a year, and then in 2013 or so, me and him were good friends. So I would just bounce around with him to houses or whatever he was doing, and then we'd hang out. And then over one of the summers, I just decided, in between work, because I was working nights doing ballet. I just spent a couple summers, 13 and then 14. I mean, pretty much just scrapping along, crawling the MLS and doing like TC paperwork. I was just like, I didn't really have any intentions behind it. I was like, I'm just hanging out with my boy and we're just whatever. I'll do paperwork. I don't care. I wasn't getting paid or anything. I just wanted to learn.
Bro, you do
Tell
ballet.
me Casey doesn't look like another valet driver that we know.
Did you say valet or ballet?
Valet.
Oh, I was like, damn, that's crazy.
I low key thought it was ballet for a second too. I was like, that's pretty dope. But tell me Casey doesn't look like another guy we know was doing valet before real estate.
Austin.
Yeah.
Another bald white guy. Austin. Another killer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bro, how have you stayed focused for 10 years? Because if you look at all of your friends who've been in it this long, they've all, let's say, diversified or chased the shiny objects like we always talked about. And I feel like you've stayed focused and stayed true the entire time. Or maybe it's an outside perception.
No, I mean, honestly, I feel like that's my superpower is that I don't get distracted by the shiny object. And even when I do see opportunities, I mean, maybe I'll educate myself, but you know, I just rather, you know, keep pouring in a thing that I know is working for me. And then down the line, that's part of the reason I didn't even want to dabble into rentals for a while, because it's a totally different business. But then at some point, my tax bills were just getting atrocious, and I was sick of paying so much in taxes. So I was like, I need to offset this somehow. And then outside of that, it's like, you know, I'm a collective genius too, and so many of the guys, a lot of the ones that don't even have the biggest wholesaling businesses, their net worths just are insane because they bought rentals and sat on them for 10 years, and then, you know, just built up that equity through appreciation, and then you end up never paying taxes too. So if you buy enough to offset it with the depreciation. But yeah, I stick to what I know, and I just try to make that, you know, better and better every day. I don't go to I'm not a huge fan of, you know, when you want to grow your company, jumping out to other markets. And I mean, that's like starting a whole nother business. I think you can always just go deeper in your market, especially if you're not in, you know, a rural area or something like that. If you're in a major metro, you just go deeper. And yeah, I just stick to that and what I know works. And I know outside of that too is like, I had my first daughter about 3 years ago, and I knew rolling into that too, even though I never got too distracted before then, but I knew that anything more that I took on would just be another full-time job, and want to be able to spend time with them during the most valuable years of their life. So I just stick to what I'm doing and just try to go deeper and deeper, and, you know, little by little get bigger as we can within reason, and stick to what I know.
How did your engineering background help you at the beginning? Because I think a lot of times when people get into this business, it's like, well, I came from a sales background, so that obviously helped with the acquisition side of the business, right? With engineering, you're more analytical. I know there's lots of people coming from traditional W-2 jobs wanting to make this type of leap. Is there any attributes from either what you learned in school or your background in engineering that you think directly applied and gave you a competitive advantage in the real estate space?
You know, I think the biggest thing that I would say I took from it is just, you know, problem solving, because there's so many different ways you can come at any problem that's put in front of you. And then, I mean, just being extremely focused for hours and hours on end is, I think, an important skill. And I was always the kid, the distracted kid, ADD, ADHD, whatever you want to call it. And just being like, a lot of that just takes practice over time, like being able to be focused and learning that skill to sit there for hours and hours and hours and learn material that is definitely not fascinating by any means. And then outside of that too, I think as I was going through school, you know, most engineers are kind of, you know, they're typically a little bit more introverted, less social. And I was blessed that I also have the ability to be social. So I would just befriend all the kids in the classes and like let them learn that super dense material, and then just study with them and, you know, be able to figure out all those classes or whatever we were learning quickly. So I think it taught me like connection, problem solving, and then, you know, just always trying to find a shortcut to get to the degree, get the you know, be able to pass the tests or exams or whatever. So I think a lot of those things applied, and just discipline and consistency, I think, is what it comes down to.
What did the early stages of the biz look like for you? So when you just said, you know what, I heard you say burn the boats, and in 2013 you did that first deal, and then you're like, I'm just going to do this. Were you just flying by the seat of your pants, or did you have like a plan when you started? What did that look and feel like?
I rarely have a plan, I'd say. So through that's because I didn't graduate till 2015, and through that period of time, I was going to school, and then what I think piqued my brother-in-law Josh, who got me into the business. What piqued his interest? He had one investor at the time. I spent that summer. I found some deals. I don't even know if I got. I think on one of them I got paid like $500, but I didn't even. I think he just saw that I didn't care about the money, and I had really great work ethic. But he saw me. Him and his investor saw what I was doing just on the side while I was going through school. I was buying and selling Jeeps off Craigslist like a maniac. Like I bought one. Bought it for $2,000, sold it for $4,000, made $2,000. And the second that I got that first one done, before you knew it, they're just lined up and down the block in my parents' neighborhood. They were like at the beginning of the cul-de-sac, and it looked like a used car lot. So I remember he saw that I did one, and then he comes back a month later and he's like, what is going on here? Like they're just lined up and down the block. So I just scaled it up quick. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just like, $2,000, $2,000. I'm just going to do as many as I can. So I did that. So I do the Jeeps, going through school. I was doing valet, and then I kept doing that even through the summers. And then, spending a couple hours at the office. And then I just did that forever. I remember it was like, because engineering isn't like your typical, no offense to anybody with, like a arts degree or communications degree, but like engineering is a pretty intense, it's a degree to try. You have to be, it takes a lot more time and off hours to learn stuff. But I just remember for a period of time, it was like 18 months or something like that. It was 100-hour weeks between school, homework, whatever projects you're working on, then valet at night, trying to pluck off these Jeeps and get them all, fixed up, whatever. Yeah. It was like that for a long time. So he saw me doing that. So he's always in my ear, but I was just committed to finishing my degree, because I was already 3.5 years or so in. I'm like, I'm just going to finish this out. And there wasn't really a ton of opportunity at the time. I guess. And then in 2015, right when I was about to graduate, he had split up with his investor and was just figuring it out. So he was doing about 20 houses a year. And then he met at the gym. He met a couple of guys that had built bars and tavern chain here, restaurant bars and taverns that they had like 15 or 20 of them, and they sold them off to a gaming company for an exorbitant amount of money, and we're sitting on cash, and they wanted to flip with it. They'd done it before. They had a guy that just runs it for them, and they're the investors on it. And he had that opportunity, but it was pretty much just him. So he was in my ear, and that's when there's more of an opportunity. Then I was like, all right. So I had already taken like 6 or so job interviews, which engineering also, it's pretty good pay from the start. Yeah. So I had some really good job offers, and I just remember sitting there with my now wife, girlfriend at the time, and saying like, I think I'm just going to abandon. I'm going to turn down all these job offers, and I'm going to do the real estate thing. So I did that. And then within that was like August or so of 2015. So our first full year was 2016. And that first year, it was just me, him, and then my sister would help with the books and stuff, but the bookkeeping. But we did 76 house flips that year. Damn. And we did everything. I was loading up those Jeeps with tile from Floor & Decor, hitting Home Depot, getting every light fixture, door handle, door hinge, faucet, everything, meeting contractors, and we would sell them to, because we were the agents. So, and when you're flipping, and I was in charge of all the acquisition. So I'd be up till midnight, writing offers on the MLS, running all the properties coming up the next day in the auction. And anytime a wholesaler sent me the deal, I'd drop what I'm doing and give them a number, whether it made sense or not. But I was just putting out a shitload of effort, then going to meetups and whatever I could to, gain traction. So we had a great first year, but it was grueling. And then I think we brought on a project manager, maybe 2017 or so, to help with construction, but we all still were involved. Cause when you flip, it's not like wholesaling, as everybody knows, but you do the buy side of everything. Then you do the renovation, and then you have the sell. So it's like 2 transactions in one, plus the rehab in the middle of it. you do 75 flips, it's 150 transactions.
Yeah.
Agent on both ends of it, or the buyer on one, the seller, whatever, on both ends of it. And yeah, it was a lot of work, and it was a long few years. So we did that through 2018, and then we were also trying to build a little bit of a retail brokerage, but so we went our separate ways in 2018. And that's the first time I ever did any direct to homeowner marketing or anything. We're so 17, 18, whatever, 16, 17, 18, or 17 and 18. We're doing about 100 flips a year. I think our best year is like 115 or so, or something like that. But yeah, so I just got a huge amount of volume in a short period of time, and learned as much as I could. And then I think it just made me into an animal. So when I went to shift over to wholesaling, also, I wasn't sending out shitty deals. I knew what the numbers had to be. So my deals never fell on deaf ears. That's pretty much how I got started.
Was the break from the initial business? I heard you say that was a partner. A lot of times, I think people jump into this business very quickly with other people without really understanding what type of commitment that is. And it's real estate's one of the only businesses where I've seen that, where it's like everybody just talks about all the money you're going to make and all the deals, but they don't really discuss the downside or who's going to do what. Without getting too far in the weeds, was it a clean break for you? And was it easy? Was it amicable? Like, what advice would you give to people that are maybe in a partnership, right? And then they want to look at potentially branching out on their own? What's the best way to kind of navigate that conversation, and how did that look for you?
Oh man. Well, he was my brother-in-law too. So
so there's a family element there too, dude. Yeah.
It was a brutal couple of years, and it wasn't didn't have anything to do with money or nobody carrying their weight. Like, cause we were all, I think it was just our nerves were so high at all times, because we honestly had no idea how to delegate. So just taking on way too much on both of our plates. So you maybe drop the ball here or there. It just felt like such a high stress environment, and just constantly like rubbing because of that. So it just slowly became unhealthy. And my sister's in the office too. So like it just got to the point where it was like, I don't think that our relationship's going to be salvageable or be able to be recovered unless we, pull the Band-Aid off now and just, do our thing and just be respectful of each other's livelihood. But, also, I was very intentional like after the fact to be respectful of his livelihood. Although, I built out and changed the way that we did acquisition, and together we took it to another level. So I think I just learned a ton through that breakup process. It's like one thing specifically is that I had felt like, I made this acquisition machine what it was. But then looking back at it, it's like I wouldn't have known how to do any of this foundation. I wouldn't have shit if he hadn't opened the door for me. But even aside from, my incorrect perspective at that period of time, until, it was probably 6 months a year before I really realized, like, wow, I wouldn't have any of this had he not, pushed me to come on with him. But outside of that, that's why I started doing direct to homeowner marketing, because that's all we did was basically networking deals or the MLS. Yeah. So once I started marketing, I was kind of, found my own pool to fish out of that wasn't, the direct secrets and methods that we did before, that it would just immediately be, crushing him or butting heads on, cannibalizing each other. So I think that helped repair it. But it took, before we split up, we went to therapy. Like
really
hours of conversations.
Hell yeah.
Before and after. It's a full-on divorce, like from your wife. Like, it's extremely stressful.
You think about the amount of hours, dude, that you put in with a business partner like that. You are just connected at the hip to try to unwind all of that when you've got all this money, all of this, it's just a fucking nightmare, dude. Frankly, you know what I mean? It's just a really hard thing to get around, dude. So it's good. I appreciate you being honest and open about that. That's pretty cool.
Would you do a partnership again after that?
No.
That's how I feel. I had a terrible partnership breakup about a year or two ago, and I was like, there's no way I'd do it again.
Yeah, no, maybe on one deal here or there with somebody. I found very few people. My thing is that I don't like the stress of whether or not this is actually what is being perceived on the other side. Like, I don't like the stress of feeling like I let somebody else down. Like, if I mess up, then I don't like to feel like I let somebody else down. It's just a lot easier when I'm like, oh, well, I guess I, messed that deal up, and then I just move on, and it's on me, essentially. But it's just, I don't like that stress. And I also don't, I'm not the best communicator of all the little details. Like, I just decide, and then I decide and announce later. So that just doesn't work well in a partnership. Like, my wife reminds me of it all the time. So,
bro, what's your have you taken the predictive index?
Yeah.
What is it?
Maverick.
That's interesting. I'm a Maverick, but I would think as an engineer you wouldn't be a Maverick.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I've gotten that a lot, but no, I'm my A's all like, I don't know, 3 sigmas there, and then my D is negative 3 sigmas with an arrow pointing. Like, so I'm a true Maverick, but I'm a patient Maverick. My C comes back a little bit. So
that's interesting. When did you finally decide to buy rentals? Because we talk about this a lot, about how none of us believe that you should, and just because it takes a lot of attention and then cash, honestly, when things go south.
100%. I think I decided I wanted to offset my taxes sooner, but to me, to make, whatever you could do leverage with a rental, I don't know, call it 10% if you're 10 to 15% realistically on scale if you're lucky for single family homes. Like, I just would have rather just continue to pay taxes and keep my money rolling in flips. But it got to I pretty much decided when I had a significant amount of cash sitting at any time, like 7 figures regularly, and I was buying flips cash because, when you start flipping, especially if you're using hard money and leveraging, you're pretty much making 100% cash on cash ROI if you're doing it right. So then every year your cash doubles, plus add in wholesaling, and then, my cash is a snowball. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna start buying some rentals to offset my taxes, because even at whatever the down payments are, and then especially after I refi, but like, I would have just paid all those down payments anyways as taxes. So that was 2020 when I was sitting on cash and having hefty tax bills, and when I really felt like my business was extremely consistent to an extent, where I didn't have to worry if there's if there's vacancies and whatnot. But then that was, I think, the end of 2020 ish was about when I bought my first single family rental in Oklahoma. Anyways, I had bought 10 one-offs in Vegas, but not a ton. But then I bought 120 of them in 16 months, one by one from wholesalers. Like, it was another grueling process. And then towards the end of that, I bought those I bought alone, no partnership. But then I bought a complex with the guys that were helping me find the deals in Oklahoma. We bought a 90 unit and a 50 unit and just went partners on those. And then we did a storage complex, and then a development, added basically like 28,000 square feet roughly to an existing facility. And now we're just getting it all leased up. But so I waited till I had a lot of cash sitting and I felt safe and needed the write-offs is really what drove me to do it.
What made you go Oklahoma? You're in Vegas. I'm assuming you don't have ties to Oklahoma. You don't have friends there, family. Like, what made you choose Oklahoma?
Well, I think it's more important, or less important where, more important who's kind of helping you facilitate it. So I had met guys in Collective Genius that already had 200 plus doors out there, and they wanted to spend a year wholesaling instead of keep taking them all as rentals, because they had cash flow, but they were cash poor because they, when you wholesale, you just compile a bunch of cash. So they wanted to wholesale everything off for about a year. And I was like ready to buy, and they kind of already had everything set up as far as construction handle and property management and,
That's nice.
Connections with the market and the wholesaler. So in Oklahoma, it's just, you pretty much, you pick a market that is appreciation or cash flow generally. So I wanted to have my core portfolio that I started with to be cash flow market, just because it's a little bit safer as far as ongoing. Maybe it won't help me as much on my balance sheet long term, but luckily I picked a good time too, because it was 2020, 2021. So they've gone up quite a bit since then regardless. But And then Oklahoma is just a really strong growing market. It's a stable market. It's got a well balanced economy, like through agriculture and oil and medical field. And it's just, and it runs right to, it's just a great major metro. So you could pick any major metro, but it's really going to come down to like, how are you going to execute on it? So just the blend of the two.
Bro, how is that storage add-on gone? Because the development side scares me. I don't want to do it because we're doing a heavy lease up right now and it's taking way longer than I thought it would.
Yeah, well, I'm about to experience that portion of it. The development, I mean, I almost way over budget, mostly as a land or just dirt work. But I really went into it. So I partnered with the guy out of Oklahoma on it, myself, and then we picked one other guy from Collective Unions, Scott Myers. I don't know if you know him. He has 28,000. He has 28,000 doors across the U.S. or units across the U.S. So I was like, if there's anybody that I can partner with that knows what they're doing, so we partnered us three on it, and then the construction side honestly is super hands off if you have the right contractor. We just went way over budget because of the dirt work, but outside of that, the development side with the right contractor is kind of, effortless. But then, now we got to go through our leasing up period and then try to get it sold. So outside of that, the development wasn't too big of a deal. I think it took about maybe 18 months or maybe a little less, 14 months. So I'd have to look back.
What happened with the dirt work? Like when you say dirt work, it costs more for grading because I had to get like all of our parking lots graded. It costs a little bit more than I thought. But like, what could you have seen beforehand to prevent that?
I mean, there was a drainage retention running right through the property that we thought was going to be fine, but wasn't. So we basically had to rebuild it all and reroute stuff. And then half the lot was, we had to bring in like so much infill dirt, and the infill dirt, you can't just grab whatever dirt. You got to do like type 2 or whatever it is that compacts right to level the whole complex to be the same level. So I think the backfilling was extremely expensive. And then if you ever see obviously a retainage running through your property line, that don't be a fool like we were. It just seemed fine. And we had engineers come out and give it. Everyone's like, this should just be fine. You'll just have to fill in around it. But that's not what the case ended up being. So,
Oh my God, bro, how have you had anybody who's been with you since the beginning? You're one of the only people I know who's been like really at a very large scale for 10 years of doing a ton. And like, have you retained anybody over that amount of time?
I did until October 22. I had my main acquisitions guy who I had as my project manager, who I had helping me flip the Jeeps. He kind of tagged along in everything I did. In the end of 22, he finally wanted to do his own thing. So I was like, it was transparent about it, and I was just in full support of it. It's like, I get everybody's got like their own ambitions or want to give it a shot. So he did that. Outside of that, on the wholesaling side who filled his role in my closer role, he's pretty much been with me for 4 years or so, which takes me back to like 2020 or 19. But nobody since, I guess, no day ones anymore. He was only one, but everybody else, it's like usually like 4 or 5 years at a time. But we're still kind of youngish. If it's been 2018, so when I started doing direct to homeowner, and then I was just in my house by myself, and then I brought on an assistant, and then it was Ryan, who was the acquisitions guy, and then we wrote it out through 22. But no day ones anymore.
Talk through, Casey, when you made that pivot to just start doing the core business on your own. And that's when it sounded like that's when direct to seller really started clicking for you. Talk about how much that's changed in the last, if it's 2018, 6 years, right? And like what was working then, what stopped, and what's working really well for you right now, and how have you pivoted right now? Because I know Vegas has got to be a hyper competitive market. So there's got to be lots of people going direct to seller out there.
Yeah. So Yeah, through those first few years, I mean, we didn't do a single bit of direct to homeowner, like, or any we spent $0 on marketing through all those years. And then 2018, that transition was like, coming from, I pretty much just to make that split with the partner easier, by just walking away, like helping transition now and fill my role the best I could, but like left him with all the whole team that stuck with him. I was like, I'm just going to go off and, not, limit the damage that me leaving is going to do. So just keep all of it. We had, I think, 20 agents in the brokers, but that was more of a headache than a value anyways. But I took we buy any Vegas house. I think that was 2016 that we started, but it just is a website that just sat there and we just were waiting for leads to come in. Like, it's not how it works.
Not driving any traffic or anything. Yeah.
No, nothing. And I'm like, maybe if we just tweak this background, more leads will come in. Yeah, not the way it was. Naive at the time. And so I took that and then left him with the brokerage and then everything else. And the first thing that I wasn't even licensed. So I was like, I need to get my license. So, because I still wanted to try to acquire on MLS and I was going to flip some stuff. So I knew that I needed it when I resold it. I wasn't licensed for all those years. So I just studied for my test from the day that I signed up for the online course or whatever. 8 days later, I passed my test. I was just waiting for the license to come. I just studied it relentlessly for 3 days and then got my thing or my license on the way. I'm like, all right, this is where I'll start. But I do remember those were very dark days because it was like coming from every day being so busy that like, you couldn't think straight to like then just sitting in my house alone. Nobody around me, nothing to do. Like, what do I do to start? And I wanted to make sure that I was, kind of tiptoeing around which direction I wanted to go that wouldn't, cause a conflict. So I was like, I just had to kind of reinvent at that point. And I just started doing text message marketing. So I was like, what's the cheapest thing that I can do? I had a few bucks saved up and I just started sending out I found a bunch of different little platforms and then I found a real good one at the time was Roar. I don't know if any of you guys ever used it. 2018. So it was like untapped waters. It was insane. Like I was crushing it on Roar. So I did text message marketing through like very heavy. I just started kind of scaling up, figuring out what was working, what wasn't. And all of it was very data driven and code driven, I guess you could call it. I don't know if you know what a spin token is, but you put the little variables in the so I had to build that out to an extreme and then figure out like whatever buying numbers, whatever, just figure out that one marketing channel. So I figured that out. That's all I did. And then the next cheapest thing I did was like voice broadcast, which was like robo dialing, ringless voicemail, that kind of stuff. So I did all those and I was spending maybe, I don't know, a couple $1,000 a month. But then once I kind of figured out how to get the best results out of it, I did the same thing with the Jeeps as I did with everything else. I'm like, I'm sending out 1 million text messages a month. So I just started sending out as many as I possibly could. And I did that for a while. And then, which is if you know text message leads, they were better quality back then, but they were still shit leads compared to inbound PPC leads. But I would just call them. I would set appointment. And then Ryan would go on appointments. I'd go on appointments, whatever. And so I started with those marketing channels. And then I didn't even have a CRM for the first like 6 months. It was a notepad. I would just be like, oh, that's a good address and look in the Excel sheet of what it was and then go back and write it down. And then every day I just tear it off and start the new notepad again, rewrite all the addresses and of the ones that stayed and went, whatever. That's all I did for a while. And then I started building out my CRM. I just started building out Podio, and then the back end Globiflow and all that stuff and some automations and just made it better and better. And then I was a little bit more comfortable to start because I started making some money and getting some deals flowing. And then I just started next one I started spending a little bit of money on SEO, but it didn't kick off for a while. And then I just started running some PPC myself. And then I gave it to a vendor because I was just so busy. So I had PPC running for a while. And obviously those were gold compared to the SMS leads I was generating. Those would be like, I don't know, 50 to 70 to 1. And then that slowly changed to like 100 to 1 before you get a lead to contract. And then SEO would be like 1 in 4. PPC, I was converting like 1 in 8, 1 in 10. So yeah, I just started doing like adding marketing channels one by one and trying them out. Never cutting anything until I had like pretty much 2 quarters worth of data to really see if and refining it to make it work. Once it worked, then I would just slowly scale it back up and then move to the next one. So figure it out, scale it up, move to the next one. And then just, each one of them would be a couple deals a month. And then that's just kind of how I rolled into it.
God damn, you are methodical.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
That was,
I
like,
mean,
the best way I
there's
can
no
describe
plan
it.
there. It's like, oh, I'm going to start. I haven't figured this one out yet. I'm going to move to the next one. And then I would just be like, I'm going to make a Google Ads account. And I make one and I'm like, okay, create campaign, run. Let's see what happens. And there was no real planning. It was more of like, start it and then figure it out. Shoot first, aim later.
Did you teach yourself how to code with Globiflow? Like, did you get that into it?
Unfortunately, I don't know how to code, but like,
But like, you taught yourself enough to make it do what you needed to do.
yeah, when I would get stuck, I'd have my developer do it, and then I would look at the code that he did, and then copy it, and then type in Google, how do I change this to be this? But I don't know how to code. I know how to change code that exists, but that's pretty much it.
That's dope.
It's
Bro,
not. It's a nightmare. I go down the rabbit hole there.
Yeah. How have you maintained culture in your company over these last couple of years? I mean, because you have a legit operation. I feel like a lot of real estate people don't get to this point, and the number one thing that people miss out on is the culture. And I think both Dean and Jason have done really good. Dean had 2 people come back to him who he developed over time, and they have a really good culture now.
I think that, I mean, I typically in the beginning, I was bringing on people in my circle, so they were like me in a sense. They had the same morals, values, character, integrity, all that. Like we were aligned in that sense. And then just the type of person I ended up attracting were, social people that interact with each other. So they kind of fed the culture to themselves. I mean, I've had ebbs and flows of good and bad and culture and like, conversations to try to help people develop to think, I don't know, just to see things from other people's perspective, to understand like how you're being perceived versus how you thought you were, what your intentions were, like just really just developing yourself. And like, I think a lot of that just, I don't know, kind of happened naturally through the conversations and the growth with each other, growth within me. I realized very quickly that, it'd only be as good or bad as I was. So it's always a process. But I think just trying to be selective in the beginning of who you're bringing on, who you're introducing to your culture. And, obviously results and performance are, I've just learned in probably the last 2 years that results are very different. Like I had to redefine my definition of what like results or success was. And it wasn't just producing revenue or deals or whatever. Which is a hard thing to do when you're dousing out all this money in marketing. You want to make sure if somebody's performing, leave them alone. If somebody's performing, don't mess with them. Whether they miss a meeting or they, piss somebody off or they don't communicate, whatever. So I've kind of just put an end to that. I'm like, the results will come with the right people. And I'd rather have somebody be at like 70, 80% and just not be causing all those headaches and issues and whatnot. So that's just something that I constantly have to work on. But then what I end up finding too is that even if you think that person's gonna be 70, 80%, once everyone's clicking and everyone's always trying to look out for everybody else, putting the team first and just being courteous of others, like it's not 70, 80% anymore. It's like they're 100% A player. Like everybody just performs better and it's a stress-free environment. So yeah, I feel like everyone's business and culture is going to be healthy in a different way. And it's always going to depend on like who you are as the leader, because like my version of the way my organization flows is kind of an extension of my personality. It's a very low management type, like everybody kind of, fend for yourself in a way or whatever, just self-management. And versus somebody else might, like all my people would be driven crazy by somewhere with a very high accountability and constant management, so everybody's going to be different, but it's just always constant conversations with everybody on your team and trying to coach them to be better.
Do you do one-on-ones and stuff?
Not on like, yes, I do, but they're more of like, oh, it's Thursday, someone wants to sit down and talk with me. It would probably be better if they were more structured and quarterly, monthly, annual, whatever, but it's more of just like we do it as it comes up.
Okay. I'm the same way. I know Jason started doing one-on-ones and he loves them.
It's probably a good idea. That's like all
Same here.
my.
Yeah, I think we just started doing it a couple months ago. I feel like it makes a big difference. Whether there's something important to talk about or not, it's just the conversation that you start having, build that routine, and then you can start to really dial certain specific things in. I think it's honestly a game changer.
It's been the best thing. We started taking traction very seriously a year ago. We just did our third quarterly rock meeting last week all day at my house. We do level 10 on Monday. I do one-on-ones with all my leadership team throughout the week. And it allows for all those things that are in our head that we know that we need to get done, but that take longer periods of time, that are not just tasks that we can knock out really quickly, but they take weeks or months to finish. It allows that stuff to not fall through the cracks. And that's usually the bigger, more important stuff anyways, dude. You know what I mean? So it's like having that structure and that cadence honestly has been one of the best things that we've done. Cause I feel like we're all similar in the sense of where we will just work. Like we're all workers on this call. Like I will just sit down and I don't have a problem putting in the hours, you know what I mean? And that gets us to a certain point, but then like breaking through to the next level past some of the plateaus that we hit requires a little bit more structure. So I hated my corporate job, dude, but they have something figured out when they can manage thousands of people. Yeah, there's definitely something into that structure and all that stuff that's there. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's probably the next step for me too. I just am not a meetings guy, so it's painful for me, and I'll easily push off. And I just don't stay consistent with that. But I should work on it.
How big is your office, and how important has it been as far as having an office in the community for deal flow?
You don't need an office in the community for deal flow. I prefer to be talking to somebody face to face, have like a lead comes up. I think for like team, like having a cohesive team, it's like a new hot lead pops up and then there's somebody there to close it, or like a comp pops up. It's just, you sit in your house in front of a computer and do the virtual thing. And to me, if I was going to do something like that, I would just not have a team and just go flip a bunch of houses and do it by myself. But like, the significance isn't there when you don't have that human connection, like the team lunches or just the banter, it's like that to me is something that I value. So I think my office size wise, I mean, it's not that big. I think we're like 1,800 square feet, but I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people in here, and they bounce around like, people going on appointments. And
do you guys still do any brokerage related stuff, or is it all flipping wholesaling? Is that still at least an arm of your business, or did you just pull the plug on that completely?
Just last year, I created a brokerage. I'm not even the broker. I had the broker I was hanging my license at. She's just an investor and really does other stuff too. But I just made a broker, and then she's the managing broker, just simply so that like my TC wants to get licensed and, do a couple family friend deals a year or whatever, or just that where I hang my license, I've got control. Yeah. So that's it, but never like recruiting agents or anything like that. I think we have like 15 at the agents at the brokerage, but it's not for making money. It's just for control.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for them too, to have like if they're trying to build a professional career, I wanted to have like some customer facing brand that wasn't We Buy Any Vegas House. It's just, a little bit more sophisticated where they could build a career with something that's, for our customer facing.
Yeah.
So being in the business for about 10 years now in the Vegas market, what are some of the changes that you've seen? Have you seen a lot of volatility? I know Vegas is known kind of for that. I think with a lot of the recent changes, growth that's been happening, sports teams, there's probably going to be a lot more stability around that. What's that market been like for you?
Oh man. I've just been spoiled the whole time that I've been in the industry, just because it's been growing. I mean, we had a few blips. I mean, there was COVID, but I mean, we all know how that turned out. And at the time it was scary. But that time, and that was when I was in like my rapid growth, high risk, running lean. So I went all in COVID, and that really paid off. I just
What a
bought
time to go all
everything.
in. Jeez.
Yeah, and I know I went all in, and to where I like barely had, like, it just was unsafe, the amount of cash flow. Like my cash management was so poor. But never missed a payment on anything or payroll. But went all in, then scored out there, and then there was a blip also in like 2000. I think it was 18. It was 18, a winter of 18. We had a slowdown a bit, but nothing catastrophic. I know some guys lost some money, but not like '08 type stuff, of course. COVID just turned out awesome. And then last year, or the end of 22, halfway through 22, I knew that the rates were going to start increasing. So I typically would do like, or I'd have like probably anywhere from like 20 to 40, let's say, flips or properties that I owned or were flipping at a time, in addition to the wholesaling. So I saw that coming. So not as soon as I should have, but I think I had about 35 properties in July of 22. But I stopped buying in July. I stopped buying rentals. I stopped buying anyhow. I just wholesaled everything. So I had it because I wanted to churn through my inventory. So I think I was left but with like 7, maybe 13 or 17 by like the time October, November hit. And then just wrote out the ones I had. I think I lost a couple 100,000, but I know people that lost a shitload more than that during the end of the year. And then I jumped back in. So Q1 of 23 was lower for us on revenue anyways, because we didn't have a huge pipeline of flips that were closing and whatnot. And then investors were just being, pulling back a lot on their, being more conservative on their offers. But then, we picked up all the steam through the last 3 quarters of the year. So it's been good. It changed. It pretty much is those three, outside of those 3 things, it's been pretty consistently hot, and just being calculated by how the market's doing, whether I'm going to be flipping or not. And it's nice when you flip and wholesale, because when it's hot, you capitalize. When it's not, you don't. So,
Bro, are you guys still going belly to belly, like with all your seller appointments?
Yep. We close over the phone if it's closable over the phone, but I would say, we always shoot for in-person appointments, because it's 20 minutes anywhere in Vegas. So you're going to get better deals and have a better, when you close over the phone, you're going to probably convert at half roughly of what you would belly to belly.
And how many sales reps do you have? 5?
No, I have 2. Well, it's changing right now, but I would say generally I have 2 to 3 inside sales, so appointment setters, and then 1 or 2 closers. Right now I have 1 closer, and then I close when I have to, but he does 90% of the volume. And then we're bringing on another closer actually next week. But yeah, so typically like 3 inside sales, 1 or 2 outside sales that are closing.
Is your marketing's a mix of outbound and inbound, or have you shifted more towards inbound right now?
The beginning of 22, I was, I'll maybe little hobby projects of some SMS stuff, but like, no, it's 99% all inbound leads now.
Are you running TV?
No, I did, but that was 22 when things got rough. So TV, you need to have like a solid runway before you start to get traction, and I wasn't willing to bleed out during that period of time. I might address it again after the election or something, but right now, no TV, just PPC.
So what does it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so is it PPC, SEO? Are you guys doing mail at all on a scale over there, or what do those marketing channels look like?
PPC, SEO, direct mail, and some lead aggregators, like, Meet Yourself at whatever, like some of those. And then we still acquire on the MLS, and then market to agents and stuff. That brings us deals. Go to meetups. That brings us deals. But yeah, just
there's a lot of action on the MLS.
It's tough right now. We're back to like, getting closer and closer to 1 month of inventory. So it's always brutal then. And during then we'll shift more towards, cold marketing to agents, email campaigns or whatever, and more meetups, whatever we can, go speak somewhere and to agents that are wanting to learn how to invest. But yeah, the MLS, it always works. It's just, so it's a lot harder than it normally is. And then the deals just get tighter. But I think we've been averaging like maybe like 2 to 3 a month from the MLS, roughly the last like 4 or 5 months.
I mean, that covers overhead.
Nah. I wish.
Some type of marketing spend.
Yes, it does. It does.
What type of split are you with, like wholesale and flip?
Right now, I mean, it's hard for I see the companies as 2 separate companies. So like we send every deal we get out, and then if I'm gonna flip it, I got to match what that investor's paying. And they're just
like
being
that.
so that way then I pay out the assignment fees on the close. There's no question of what it would have been. So I typically try to, it switches back and forth, but never more than 50-50, usually 70% wholesale, 30% flipping. So we'll maybe do, 50 to 70 flips at most. And then the rest wholesale, typically about 150 deals a year. But yeah, that's usually the mix. Right now, I think I only have like 12 or 15 flips going just because I can't compete with the offers that we're getting. It just doesn't make sense. I'm like, I'm going to flip this thing. Even if I bought it cash, I'm going to flip it and make, another $8,000. No.
Yeah.
Is it just cleaner for your books to pay your wholesale company the assignment fee and then take it on as a flip? Or like, why do you choose to do that if they're both basic? I mean, obviously it sounds like they're going to different accounts. Why do you structure it that way where you pay the fee to yourself?
Because that's how all my reps get paid. Because I could just, if I wanted to, I could just stop marketing entirely and have no team, and then just do what I was doing before and flip 50 to 70 houses a year off the MLS and wholesaler. Like, so the marketing dollars that I'm spending are really only allowing me to get, volume, of course, but deeper discounts. So my team gets paid on assignment fees or whatever the assignment fee was going to be if we flipped it. So that's why we split it that's, I would say, the main reason. But then also if we do flip it, this is not answering your question, but if I score out on a flip, then let's say that I thought I was going to we just set the minimum margin 8%. Like the flipping company if it's flipping a deal, it's 8%. That's what our target is. So if we exceed that drastically, like let's say that I match the assignment fee and it was a $25,000 fee, and then the deal, explodes and I end up making 15%, I put another assignment fee on the back end to bring it down to 8% and pay them on the back end too.
Wow.
I don't really have to do that. I just, when I win, I want them to win and everyone to feel like
good for you. No, that's good.
Yeah.
Are you paying them? Are your guys getting paid a fee just on the acquisitions fee, or do they get another bonus for dispo? Or are those two completely different arms of the business? Is there one guy doing locking the deal up?
Yeah. So the inside sales gets paid a commission. The acquisition, the closer gets paid their commission, and then I have a dispo guy that gets paid his commission. So it's separate.
What are those splits with those guys? Like, what are your inside sales reps getting? Like, how much are you giving away?
Typically inside sales, I'll start them on a base. I do like a 3 and 3, so $3,000 a month and 3%, and then whenever they're ready to transition, they go to 7% all commission. And then on the closer side, I start them at I haven't ever hired closers from outside the company until I have a guy starting Monday, but I start them at 10%, but I'm going to give them a minimum just to pay his bills and whatnot. But 10% commission only is generally what it's going to be. And then over time, they go to like 12-ish. But and then dispos, my dispo started at 4, but he's at 5 now.
With a base or without a base for a dispo guy?
No base.
Without no base.
Yeah. So pretty much
and volume on 150 deals. So you guys are doing 12, 13, something like that a month. Was my math right on that or not?
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah.
Well, they're signing a little more than that. I think our cancellation, it used to be super low, like 5 or 10%, but I realized I was leaving money on the table by having too low cancellation. So I think we're hovering right around like 20-25%. So they're signing maybe 17 to 20, let's call it, and then some fall out, some whatever.
That's interesting. We're kind of going through that right now, looking at a low cancellation rate. So did you feel you were just being too conservative on your offers and you got more aggressive on price and just started going after more deals? Or was it something else that you guys were missing?
That's the main thing. Yeah, I'd rather, give it a shot. It's just, I try to make sure that my closer prefaces those deals different with the seller, because I don't want to just lock stuff up that doesn't make sense and
Yeah.
cancel it. It's just a headache.
Yeah.
It's stressful for the
Yeah.
sellers. Like, it just doesn't feel like the right thing to do. So if they're borderline close, whatever, we lock it up and figure the rest out later. It's just been, we just learned our lesson too many times where we did lock them up and then somebody pays way more than we ever thought made sense. It's like, how many of these have we been leaving on the table? So now we lock it up and try to figure it out later, or lock it up. And then if it doesn't pan out that way, we'll try to convert it to a sub 2 or an ovation or just a straight up listing, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So you don't even have that opportunity if you don't lock
Are
it
you
up.
closing on anything and just taking it straight to market since you guys are licensed? That's worked very well for us out here. Like, just because there's no same as you. We're like about a month's worth of inventory out here, maybe a little bit more. There's literally nothing. Investor appetite is still pretty strong, especially in that entry level, cheaper price range. So anything that we go, even if it's beat up, goes really quick on MLS for prices that just don't even make sense to me.
Yeah, I need to start doing more of that. We do some of it. A lot of those we just try to structure as either just a novation or
Innovation,
like or just as like a sub 2 while we do that process, just 'cause, I guess, risk. But yeah, I should be doing more of those. And then I'm just constantly, I'm in such a habit of just renovating them and doing them right, because I don't want to get stuck holding the bag. I'd rather have beautifully renovated product. But I'm sure that I'm throwing money away on reno more than I should be. I just
for sure
like predictability, I guess. But I there's been a couple lately that we've been doing that. And a lot of times we can sell to the funds. So like we'll just plug in one of the funds if they're that clean and get it to be that quicker close.
Okay. Are you living that lavish? Like, because you've been doing a lot of deals for a long time. When did you actually feel like you were making money?
I still don't feel like I'm making money. No, I save like crazy. Even my first 5 years, I drove one of those box Cherokees. The first year I made $1 million in a year. I still had my $1,500 2001 Jeep Cherokee. And I love driving that thing, but then I was having a baby. So then I was like, okay, I can't, there's not a 5-star crash rating on it. So I bought an Escalade then, but it was only 50. And then that's pretty much it. My mortgage is $2,600 a month. That I don't spend I mean, a little bit here and there, but no, my living expenses are very, very, very low. I just save as much as I possibly can all the time.
And you look pretty fit. What are you doing? You look like you're kind of beefy, dude.
I go to the gym every morning. That's what I start my day with, whether it's a half-ass workout or not. I just go every single morning. Monday through Friday. I don't go on the weekends, but it's genetics probably.
How you've mentioned Collective Genius a couple of times. I know all of us have been like positively impacted by networking and going to mastermind events and different things like that. So what's been your experience? CG obviously is one of the top tier ones that are out there. How long have you been part of CG, and what are some of the cool things that you've learned just from being in there?
I've been in it for about 3 years now. It pays for itself every year in just relationships alone. Like I wouldn't have met the guys out of Oklahoma that way, but I constantly just get raw referral leads. Like, oh, hey, my sales guy, I'm in Oklahoma, my sales guy, or Texas or wherever they were at. My sales guy's aunt has a house in Henderson. She wants a cash offer. And I feel like every year I get like 2 or 3 of those, and they're just banger deals. So it literally just pays for itself financially. But outside of that, it's hard to find people that are doing shit at scale that, have the time to even talk to you. So it's like a good place to come together where like we're all dealing with the same stuff, no matter what market you're in, or even if some of the guys are developers, whatever, like we all struggle with the same personnel issues, the same, just daily everything is the same. It's all just business ownership. So I think that has been like the most peace that I found. And a lot of these guys are older than me, so they've just been through life, and they know, like, they like to tell me, which I absorb all of it, like just the life experiences that they've had, like, you know, don't miss out on the time with your kids. Like, no amount of money or achievement's going to replace that, which I already was going into it feeling that way, but just reinforcing those things just to get better quality of life. And then just meeting some badass dudes and seeing, you think you're crushing it, join that group, and you'll realize that there's just people shitting on you every which way.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. It gets you exciting. Like, every time I leave there, it's like almost, I'm like, damn, I'm such a loser. Like, I thought I was doing well. And it's like,
That's a good mastermind. That's a
Yeah.
good mastermind. Right
Yeah,
there.
it's good.
Well, bro, we're about running out of time. I want to give you your kudos. When I met you, me and Dean were just with Jamil last weekend. I met you at that mastermind, and you treated me amazingly, and I was nobody. And that shit tells a ton about you and your character and everything that you're about. So thank you so much for treating me that way. Do you have any words for the people? Parting words?
oh man, I guess, I mean, there's a lot I could say, but I think a common trend, especially in if you guys are, you know, in the education space to an extent, or you're doing podcasts, like, I think a common trend, especially in our industry, and wholesaling, is the shiny object. Is like, it's floating around. I'm sure it happens in every industry, but like, I feel like it's rampant. So I would just say, never risk the empire for a pot of gold, so that I stay focused, and it's constantly rewards me. And I think it gives you, you know, your team like consistency and confidence to be able to retain talent without them thinking you're changing directions and tomorrow we're going to be, you know, selling sweaters or something. I don't know, like, whatever the case is, like, they just know that they have consistency and a safe place. So that's what I'd say. Don't risk the empire for a pot of gold.
I love it, bro. You guys, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Casey, where can more people find out more about you?
I'm on Instagram, kcp.ryan. I think that's what it is. Let me see. Yeah, kcp.ryan. I'm on Instagram.
Hell yeah. And then, guys, do not forget about the Deal Champ Summit coming up on April 19th and 20th. You can see it right there at the bottom, dealchamps.com/summit. Go get your tickets while they last. Thank you, Casey, so much for coming on again.
Of course.
Talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.